In this next example, we're going to show how finding the intersection between two lines can help us solve some practical problems. In this example, we have two car rental agencies, and Renterprise charges $50 a day plus 15 cents a mile. Mavis charges $45 a day plus 20 cents a mile. And the first question is just asking, if you rent a subcompact car for one day, for what number of miles will the two companies have the same charge? All right. Well, first of all, we need some sort of expression for the cost, the total cost for each of these rental agencies. So let's start with Renterprise. Renterprise. And let's find an equation for the total cost. But we don't know the number of miles, right? You're going to be charged $50 no matter what. So I'm going to write a function, c of x. Or I could call it y if I want to. I'm going to call it c of x, c for cost, right? So you're going to be charged $50 no matter what, whether you drive 0 miles or 1 mile or 100 miles. And then you're going to be charged on top of that, you're going to be charged 15 cents a mile, which I'm going to write in dollars. Since my 50 was in dollars, I'm going to write the 15 cents in dollars, and times the number of miles. So we're going to let x, let me write that down, let x be the number of miles. All right, so we're going to identify our variable there. All right, so if we rent from Renterprise, they're going to charge $50 plus 15 cents times the number of miles that we drove. Okay. Same thing for Mavis, right? Mavis is the other car rental agency, and their cost equation, I could distinguish these by calling this C1 and C2. It doesn't, but the cost equation there is they're going to charge us $45 no matter what. And they're going to charge us 20 cents for every mile. So 20 cents is 0.2 dollars, right? And so, so they're just going to charge us $45 and then multiply the number of miles we drove times $0.2 or 20 cents, right? And add that up. And that gives us the cost equation for Mavis. All right, now we want to know what number of miles will the two companies have the same total charge. Okay, so now that we have the equations for the total charge, we're just going to set them equal to each other because we want to find when their costs are the same. How many miles, at what mileage would their costs be the same? All right, so I'm just going to take the 50 plus 15 cents a mile. 15 cents a mile. And I want to find out when that cost is equal to 45 plus 0.2x. So I want to find what x value, what x value, and x is the number of miles. All right, so now it's just algebra. All right, so I'm going to subtract 0.15x from both sides. Right, and I end up with 50 is equal to, so this is still 45, and then this becomes 0.05x. And then I'm going to subtract 45 from both sides. All right, so then I have 5 is equal to 0.05x. If I divide both sides by 0.05, I get x is equal to 100. Okay, so that's saying that if I drive 100 miles, then the cost that Renterprise would charge me and the cost that Mavis would charge me would be the same. All right. Next question then is asking, if we plan to drive 75 miles, which agency will have the lower cost? So again, let's distinguish Renterprise and Mavis, right? And let's just use that cost equation. So I'm just going to say the input to my cost function is 75 miles. And so I'm going to end up with 50 plus 0.15 times 75. All right, then we're just going to put that in my calculator, and I get, what did I get? 61.25, right? $61.25 is what Renterprise would charge me if I drive 75 miles. And let's do the same thing for Mavis. Just going to plug in 75 into the cost equation. $45 plus 20 cents a mile gives me a total of $60. Okay, so it looks like Mavis is the best bet. If we're going to drive 75 miles, then we would probably want to use Mavis. They would be the lower cost. Mavis is cheaper. Okay. Now, if we drive 125 miles, now which one is going to be cheaper? All right. Renterprise. Let's distinguish these two. So we're driving 125 miles. So the input to our cost function is 125. And so it's 50 plus 0.15 times 125. And put that into my calculator, and I get $68.75. Okay, let's do the same for Mavis. For Mavis, I'm going to find the cost for 125 miles. We're going to take $45 plus 20 cents a mile times 125 miles gives us $70. Okay, so in this case, now Renterprise looks like it's cheaper. Is cheaper. Okay, and that kind of makes sense. You know, if you're gonna, it looks like, you know, if you go back up to the original statement, Renterprise charges more per day, but less per mile. So if you're going to drive, you know, a lot of miles, right? It's probably cheaper to use Renterprise, right? Whereas the other one, Mavis, charges a lower cost per day, but more per mile. So if you're going to drive a lower number of miles, Mavis is probably the better bet. And this intersection point that we found in part A is actually the sort of the break-even point, right? It's kind of the point at which those lines will cross, right? On if the miles, if our X value is less than 100, then Mavis is going to be cheaper. If it's greater than 100, then we want to go with Renterprise. All right, that's all I have for you, and I'll see you in class.